where you are taken care of as you trust him? Okay, so now, all wickedness, suffering and sorrow we know comes from the devil, which is Satan. But was Satan like this in the beginning? Ezekiel chapter 28, reading from verse 13 says, "Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee, in the day that thou wast created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so, thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitude of thy merchandise they have filled in the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee." So Satan was in the very presence of God. He was a perfectly created being, one who reflected the glory of God. I mean, today we have people wearing all types of jewelry, but Satan has jewelry as his covering. I mean, absolute perfection of all created beings. He had it all until sin was found in him. So what was this sin? What led to Satan's sin and downfall? Now, as we know what led to his position, we can avoid this in order to be secure. Now it says in Isaiah chapter 14, reading from verse 12, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, I will be like the Most High." Now imagine that. You was created in such a perfect way that if you were made any better, you would be even as God himself. So in other words, you were created in the highest level possible. You could not be made any better. Now that is like saying, I am a trillionaire and I will give you 900 billion pounds. Now would you say, I am not happy with 900 billion, I want a trillion? Of course not, because you would not even be able to spend 1 billion, let alone 900 billion. But this was the mind of Satan. He wanted that trillion. And so now, Satan wants each and every person on this planet destroyed. Why? Because through Jesus Christ, we have the opportunity of being where he used to be. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8 says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour." Now I want you to look at this clip and we will compare it to the verse we just read. Did you notice something about this clip in comparison to 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8? When a lion is seeking to devour, as we saw in the clip, we see that it makes no noise, otherwise it scares the animal away. But in 1 Peter 5 verse 8 we are told that he is like a roaring lion seeking to devour. So this is implying that Satan is out of control. He is on a rampage of destroying us. But the most encouraging thing to remember is that when you put your trust in God and you stay with Him where He knows is safety, you cannot be destroyed by the enemy. And according to how wicked this world is today, we need safety, and if you put your trust in God, He will take care of you. So, we know He wants us destroyed because we have the opportunity of being where He used to be. But how does Satan work? Ezekiel chapter 28, reading from verse 12 says, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God, Thou sealest up the sum full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, the topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Now we have a description of Satan, but we are told from the start that he was mentioned as the king of Tyrus. So we can see that Satan's method is by using a front man in order for his goals to be accomplished. He will even use people to accomplish his goals. Have you witnessed an experience such as this? Has someone you know influenced you to do something completely wicked? Do we see examples in the world today that show that Satan has used people to do wickedness? How about people like Hitler, who killed off millions of people? Now, are there any other examples of Satan working in this manner? Matthew chapter 16, reading from verse 21, it says, From that time forth began Jesus to shew unto the disciples how that he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised again the third day. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, Lord, this shall not be unto thee. But he turned and said unto Peter, Get thee behind me, Satan. Thou art an offence unto me, for thou sayest not the things that be of God, but those that be of men. So even Peter, who was close to Jesus, was used by Satan. Jesus was supposed to die for the sins of humanity, and Satan used Peter to say this will not happen to you. Now Jesus, you could say, was sober and vigilant, just as it says in 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8. And I believe that Peter put that verse there because he had an experience to say to be on your guard, because there may be a time when even in the emotion of your heart you think this is right, but emotions could end up getting the better of you. But you could see how subtle Satan was, because if Jesus did not die according to what Satan said through Peter, we would all be lost. So Christ's mission to die for us was on his mind constantly. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, reading from verse 3 says, Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things. So again we see how Satan will use people in order to produce his goals. This verse is talking of the Antichrist, which we will go through a future study. Now this study on the Antichrist is going to be one of the most important, as it will reveal to us how not to be deceived in the last days. So please stay in tune for that, or you can subscribe in order for you to be the first to know when it comes out. Now, we know how Satan works. So how will Satan implement this to deceive people? Revelation chapter 13, reading from verse 1, it says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the names of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" From verse 11, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth all the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed." Now, another name for Satan is the dragon, according to Revelation chapter 12 verse 9. So Satan is unmasked. He has been shown his true identity. As we just said a minute ago, Revelation chapter 12 verse 9 says that he is the great dragon, that old serpent called the devil and Satan. Now this is another chapter in which we will go through on a later date, but let us just look at how Satan will put forth his plan in deceiving the world so that we don't have to. We see the principles are the same all the way through. Satan uses people in order to put forth his goals of deception. Now let us see how he does it here according to this diagram, which I will now show you. Now we are told that there are 2 beasts. Before I explain, I just want to unlock what a beast means so that we can have an understanding as we just go through this part of the study. Daniel chapter 7 verse 17 and 23 says that a beast represents a king or a kingdom. So when we hear the word beast, we can know that, well, when it comes to beast according to Bible prophecy, we can know that this is talking of a kingdom. So now back to Revelation chapter 13, we are told as follows: "The dragon, which is Satan, gives his power and his seat and authority to the beast or kingdom." And according to verse 4, they are worshipping the dragon through this kingdom. Verse 3, we are told that this beast is wounded to death. So you could say this beast is out of commission now. But now, what is Satan going to do? Because through this beast or kingdom he received worship. In verse 11, a second beast is raised, and what does this kingdom do? According to verse 12 and 15, it practices all the power of the first beast whose wound was healed through the second beast. Remember that Satan gave his power, his seat, and great authority to the first beast. So if the second beast has practiced the power of the first beast who people worshipped, what was the aim of the second beast? The aim of the second beast is to restore the worship of Satan, because when you worship the first beast, you are worshipping Satan. So Satan's overall aim, his overall goal, is to receive worship. But using these mediums in Revelation chapter 13, we see that all the roads lead to worshipping Satan. Can you see how deceiving the devil is? Now, as mentioned before, we are going to go into this in much detail so we can know who this beast is. But for now, you can see how subtle Satan is. Now, does Satan tempt anyone else to worship him? Matthew chapter 4, beginning from verse 8 says, "Again, The devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world,